People's Platform.
Good evening and welcome to the People's Platform. The face of gender-based violence has shifted with cybersexual gender-based violence. What is cybersexual gender-based violence? It is any act that is committed, assisted, aggravated or amplified by the use of information communication technologies or other digital tools which results in or is likely to result in physical, sexual, psychological, social, political or economic harm or other infringements of rights and freedoms. Although this is not a new phenomenon, cyber-sexual gender-based violence has escalated rapidly since COVID-19 and has serious implications for the safety and well-being of women, girls and gender-diverse people. Tonight's conversation will focus on this. I'm pleased to welcome to the studio Priskila Arulpragasam, co-lead of Delete Nothing, which is an organization working on online gender-based violence. Good evening and welcome to the show, Priskila.
Good evening, Sonali.
Priskila, first to set the stage, could you take us through what is encompassed by cybersexual gender-based violence and its prevalence in Sri Lanka?
So when we talk about cybersexual gender-based violence, or it is also interchangeably referred to as tech-facilitated gender-based violence or online gender-based violence, is, as you read, like an act of gender-based on a person's gender, which happens on online platforms. It can be through a mobile phone or your computer, your devices, someone facing a certain inconvenience based on their gender on an online platform, simply said. So in recent times, the prevalence of online gender-based violence and incidents of online gender-based violence have seen a rapid increase, and especially I think the COVID-19 pandemic also moved a lot of aspects into online spaces, from education to work. Everything kind of got into online platforms, and more people started using devices. More people had access to devices, and this aggravated the situation and increased the number of cybersexual gender-based violence that was happening. But it doesn't mean that it wasn't happening before that. It just kind of contributed to it to increase. So if you take the situation in Sri Lanka, nearly 62% of people are potentially experiencing cybersexual gender-based violence, and nearly 53.5% of online gender-based violence related content that is on social media or the media platforms are directed towards women. With this also, if you compare the number of the amount of the rates in education, you would see only 20.6 of youth have received formal training on or education on online safety. So you do see a lot of gaps in terms of knowledge on online safety, but also the experience of online gender-based violence is very much prevalent, though data is still needed, more data is needed, but we also deal with people on individual basis from day to day who come to us about different forms of online gender-based violence they face, like doxing, revenge porn, and different kinds of violence that they face online.
For the benefit of our viewers, could you define doxing and revenge porn? Because it's important for the latter part of the conversation.
Yes. So when you talk about doxing, it is releasing or putting out your personal identifying information in an online space. That would be maybe like, in simple forms would be someone taking a picture of you and just putting it on for social media with your number and asking someone to contact. This is very commonly seen within communities. I think a lot of women would know someone who has experienced or would have personally experienced this. And when you talk about revenge porn, it is a form of harassment where you have been in an intimate relationship or relationship with someone with whom you have shared intimate images or videos of yourself, of the both of you being together. And when the relationship is ended, this content is being shared without your consent as a means of taking revenge from you and mainly assassinating your character or kind of to, dehumanize you, this content is put on social media or other platforms as a form of revenge. So that's revenge porn. But there's so many other forms of harassment that happens. It could be from messages that you get to your inbox with, unsolicited images, verbal messages, videos, any form of image or email or message that you might get with which you do not consent to, which makes you feel uncomfortable, which makes you feel harassed or threatened, or you feel your dignity is, harmed because of it. Any form of such incident that you face online can be online gender-based violence. And I think a lot of women could relate to this and understand, not just women, also many queer people and men also face these kind of issues online.
Priskila, through the work that you've been doing over the past few years, do you think that Sri Lankan society as a whole prioritizes this kind of gender-based violence?
I think there is less priority to online gender-based violence at this point in the Sri Lankan society, because most often when women and girls or someone would say that they are facing this kind of harassment on an online platform, easier solution, our society usually gives is like, why are you on that platform? Get off it. That's usually the solution that society gives. And like, even if you are said, if you go complain to the police, sometimes the police asks you like, why did you share it? Why are you doing this? Why are you on this platform? Why do you use a dating app if it's through a dating app? So society still has a lot of stigma, again, because of the gender norms and attitudes in our society. So there's still a lot less priority for online gender-based violence in Sri Lankan society, but still it is an emerging issue because a lot of incidents have been happening, and it is something that's being prioritized at least by feminist groups and women's rights groups, and also within the international community it's something that's being prioritized. But I think it needs more priority and more, spotlight needs to be given to such issues.
Sure. Speaking about recent legal enactments, one of the premises of the Online Safety Bill and now the Online Safety Act, which was recently enacted, has been to protect women and girls from things like doxing and revenge porn. So this was one of the sort of strategies that was used to bring this forth. My question to you is the Act addressing these claims that it said it would?
So I think the Act does have a few provisions which talk about, when some unconsensual images are shared or if information is put online. But still, the Act does not really do what it claims to do. It is, in a way, at one point I have called it a kind of a disguise the Act gave, disguising it as protection for women and girls, just a disguise to, curtail freedom of expression and freedom of dissent. But in terms of, if I have to talk about the Online Safety Act, is it really accessible for people who are really facing these issues? Because most often people who face these issues are very vulnerable. Usually all this time the first contact point has been always the police station, and there's a lot of harassment that probably happens there itself when you go with a certain complaint, because there's a lot of lack of awareness about these issues. So this Act really does not really give any redress to women and girls or queer people who face these issues, because it's a commission where you have to take these cases or complaints to the commission, and the commission reviews it, works with the magistrate court if needed, and solves the issue. So with the amount of online harassment that's happening, like with the amount of incidents that we work with on a day-to-day basis, I think the commission would sit there every single day, 24 hours, reviewing content online and deciding if it's harmful, if it's not. So it's not a practical solution for online gender-based violence, but we also have so many existing laws that can be used and that are being used currently. So we really don't need this act, is my point. I would say this act is not needed, and it really will not bring in any solutions for women and girls who are experiencing these issues online.
Okay, so that is your analysis. All right, we are in conversation with Priskila Arulpragasam, co-lead of Delete Nothing, which is an organization working on online gender-based violence. We go in for a break. We'll be right back.
The People's Platform.
Shakti Crowd.
Shakti Crowd.
Every Saturday and Sunday at 8:30 p.m. Tune in to Shakti TV.
Singharaja, Sri Lanka's precious world heritage.
கண்ணில் நீர் கசிய ரசனை எனும் ஒரு புள்ளையால்
Shakti Crowd.
Every Saturday and Sunday at 8:30 p.m. Tune in to Shakti TV.
TV1. TV for life.
BASL demands Public Security Minister's ouster over controversial remarks. Muruthettuve Anandathero claims that lawyers cannot influence the duties of police officers. Vijay Dasa goes to the appeal court to assert his recent appointment within SLFP. CBK vows to rebuild the SLFP and regrets putting forward Maithripala to run for office. Multiple factions warn that the new Electricity Act puts Sri Lanka's energy sovereignty at risk. Pro-Palestinian protests at US universities spread across the country.
TV1. TV for life. The People's Platform.
Welcome back. Our topic of discussion tonight is understanding cyber-sexual gender-based violence in Sri Lanka. My guest tonight is Priskila Arulpragasam, co-lead of Delete Nothing, an organization working on online gender-based violence. Priskila, before the break, you said that we have a plethora of laws dealing with gender-based violence and online gender-based violence as well. Let's take our audience through very briefly some of the key laws and the challenges faced in their implementation, because it is no secret that women and girls disproportionately endure the harms of online gender-based violence.
So currently, when we have to deal with an incident of online gender-based violence, the laws that we mostly use are the Computer Crimes Act, the Obscene Publications Ordinance, the Electronic Transactions Act. So these acts and laws are used in different ways to persecute or to bring justice for a survivor or a victim of online gender-based violence. But the challenge with these laws sometimes is that they're not timely. As we all know, the legal system of Sri Lanka, and especially the laws that we have, are mostly from the 1800s, the ones that the colonizers left us with, the British laws that were introduced. And most of it has not been amended, repealed, based on the timely needs of the current society. So even all these laws need to be updated, reviewed, and also support the current issues, because sometimes these laws might not really address the current issue, but still we can use these laws to file a complaint on these cases. But still there's a lot of need for amendment and repealing these laws. And also sometimes what happens is because of certain laws like the Vagrants Ordinance and the Penal Code acts that criminalize certain same-sex relationships, people who face online gender-based violence on different platforms because of their sexual orientation or gender identity are afraid to take these incidents to the law, because they are afraid that they would be persecuted based on their sexual orientation, because these laws also criminalize sexual consensual same-sex relationships. So these kind of issues also play a huge role in why sometimes these issues are not taken to court, why people are hesitant to go to the police station, and also this social and cultural stigma around us, and especially sometimes when very young kids face these issues. Someone who's 16 years old, they cannot find a safe space to talk about this. If they tell their parents are going to punish them or take away their device, take away the freedom they have to go to school. And if they go and tell a teacher in the school about this, the teacher might tell the other teachers and she might be shamed, and there might be other issues that she might face within the school system. So there are no safe spaces and confidential spaces to also deal with such issues, especially when it comes to minors. Yes, the child protection hotline and the child protection services actually help, but not many young people, or especially school kids, are aware of this, and that they can go here to get confidential support that they need without stigma or judgment again, because most of the time when victims or survivors access these services, the first question is, why did you do it? If you have shared it, then it's your fault. You have to endure it. So this kind of social attitudes and norms actually silence victims and survivors.
So in your opinion, what kind of measures can we take?
Measures need to be taken in different levels. One, I would say we need to start from our education systems, where schools are safe spaces for young people to talk about their problems. Young people or kids should not be judged in school because they have a social media profile or because they have a boyfriend. They should be able to safely talk about issues they're facing in school system. And school systems should be a safe place where they can learn how to be safe online, where they learn about digital security. So incorporating digital security aspects into the school curriculum, as well as comprehensive sexuality education, which would talk about consent, relationships, healthy relationships especially, because comprehensive sexuality education would tell you what would be a healthy relationship. Because most of the time when young people share these images, it's not because they want to, but because they're pressured into, because your partner says, if you really love me, you will send me. Don't you trust me? just send me one picture, I'll see it and delete it, but then it's there. And then it's shared as revenge porn when the relationship comes to an end. So healthy, respectful relationships need to be taught to young people so that they understand if they are in a healthy relationship or not. So this kind of aspects that should come from the school level, where they learn about relationships, digital safety and other aspects. And the next point would be also parents being a safe space. Sometimes I have seen incidents where girls have been threatened, like, come to me, come to wherever I say. If you don't, I will share a nude I have of you with your parents. And the children think it's much better for them to go to a stranger than go to a parent. What does that show? What do we understand? If your child thinks she'd rather go to a stranger than come to you and tell about an issue because she's so scared that you would punish, then are you really a safe and healthy parent? So we need to think about how the responsibility of parents, and parents being more non-judgmental and open to discussing these issues with children, because these children are online. They are going to face issues. Even if they are safe, sometimes things might come because someone might edit an image. Some things might come up. So how can parents be a safer space? So the responsibility with parents, and also sensitization and aspects within the legal system, where the legal service providers, from the first contact, that would be the police station, to the lawyers and all the other aspects, are sensitized to handle such incidents, because a lot of people go through a lot of trauma when they face these incidents. And if you really are further traumatized by the system, then again it's a problem. So how can all of these aspects also be taken into consideration, from education to the legal system?
Priskila, let's also talk about the role of society and other stakeholders in ensuring that this safe space is created societally as well.
Yes, I think society also plays a major role in supporting victims and survivors of online gender-based violence, as well as gender-based violence in general, because most often we are afraid of being judged by society. We all face that. At home, sometimes our parents wouldn't let us come home late, not because they don't want it, but because they're like, what would people around us say? So society plays a really important role. And I think what I would say is, how can we look at things with empathy? As a society, we always feel we love to judge things. But how can we look at these incidents and things with empathy, and also respect decisions that people make about their lives? Not everyone has to work by the rule book. Some people might make different choices. People feel differently. People have different preferences. So respecting these preferences, especially sometimes when it comes to queer people, that is the LGBTQI community, how they are seen by society, how society becomes an unsafe space for them to live in, because the society thinks what they're doing is wrong. So I think the social responsibility would be to look at things with empathy, and also to understand the gravity of these issues. These are not individual issues that individuals are facing. These individual issues have social consequences. It can affect the community as a whole. So how can we create safe spaces within society? And also, when you talk about online gender-based violence, something that we always come across is most victims are very comfortable to go to civil society organizations. That's the first place they mostly come in for support. But they don't really see much of support and help with other systems in the society. So also how that can be created to ensure that they have a safe space to talk about these things, a listening ear. So it could also be the responsibilities of different religious organizations, and also the different government bodies around the countries, from the school system, how it can be safe spaces to address these issues.
And finally, what kind of recommendations must we look at going forward?
In terms of recommendations, first I would say amend and repeal existing laws according to the relevance and need of the current time, which is very important that we repeal and amend these laws, so that and also these through a consultative process, because when you see the Online Safety Act, it is very incoherent sometimes with the current and inconsistent with the current laws that are existing. And it doesn't really sometimes talk about the real needs or issues that people face online. So how laws and policies can be formulated based on consultative process and address the real needs without just trying to address other agendas. And also sensitize and strengthen the law enforcement authorities, from the judges to the police to the lawyers. And also next would be to come into the education system, where proper comprehensive sexuality education, digital safety education, all of these is included in the curriculum, so that people learn from a very young age how to be safe online and how to responsibly use social media, and also to know that they have their right online, just as we have rights offline, we also have online rights. We have the right to express ourselves online. We have the right to share whatever we, when I say whatever we want, I mean our appearance and our self-expression. We have the right to bring that online, and we should not be harassed for our self-expression online. So having that kind of literacy is also very important, knowing our rights.
All right. Thank you very much, Priskila Arulpragasam, for sharing your perspectives. Thank you for watching us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.